Hey, what's going on, Gab TV and Facebook people? Because that's who I'm really making this video for. I wanted to do a quick stream and talk about how to avoid the fact checkers and how to avoid getting account strikes on your Facebook account or Facebook groups. The first step to doing that is to join Gab.com. Gab.com is the leader in free speech social media. It is the original alt-tech social media platform, in my opinion, and it's a lot better than Parler for a number of reasons. I myself have been censored on Parler for posting an article critical of Parler and making a comment critical of the badge award system on Parler. They deleted my post. I'm not a big fan of that, and I haven't. My account was growing pretty quickly until I did that, and then my account has not grown at all ever since doing that. So I've kind of stopped using Parler, but it doesn't matter if you use Gab or Parler. Here's how you can avoid getting your articles fact checked and getting strikes on your Facebook account. Join Gab, the best one in my opinion. They just announced Gab TV, pretty cool. It's like a free speech version of YouTube, and it's kind of like YouTube was a couple years ago before the lamestream media really took over and YouTube started promoting mainstream media sources in all of the feeds and recommendations. So definitely check it out. Gab TV just launched last week, and I've got about 100 followers there already. Here's a link. Look at that. I got 3 links here on the home page for Gab TV, and I just crossed 100 subscribers on my Gab TV page. But to the point of this video, here's my Reopen Washington group on Facebook, on Gab. And originally, this group was created on Facebook, and I was the original Reopen Washington page and group on Facebook. And a lot of the other groups have grown to over 50,000 people. My group grew to about 7,000 members, and then back in June it got shadow banned, and it's kind of stopped growing. It's almost to 7,500 members now on Facebook, but it stopped growing because I was sharing articles that got fact-checked. As the admin of the group, I got fact-checked and got strikes on my account, and then they stopped. My group stopped growing because Facebook obviously shadow banned the group. So one thing that I've been doing, and during my campaign, I ran for office here in Washington State, and this thing that just happened to my friend Dave Reininger on Red Tsunami, he created this group Red Tsunami, and he recently had his account locked and restricted for 3 days on Facebook for sharing an article about pharmacies not selling cold medication. Haven't seen it, don't know, whatever, but I can tell you that I have had a lot of the articles that I've shared fact-checked by Facebook, and I've gotten after that gotten account strikes on my page. And during my campaign, they actually froze my personal account, and restricted that for 24 hours, and then restricted live streaming on my campaign Facebook page, which I had really been curating my page so that I didn't share things that weren't related to my actual campaign in the 1st Legislative District here in Washington. It was really finely curated, but it didn't matter because I was the admin of this group, so they locked out my personal page, they locked me out of the group page, and still to this day, the Reopen Washington page is not capable of posting in the Reopen Washington group to this day. And then they prevented my live streaming capabilities on my campaign page for 30 days in the middle of the campaign. So I had to file multiple appeals and fight that strike on my account. But what happened was I would share an article, and a lot of times from mainstream media, that would counter the narrative in some way, and then it would get multiple fact checks, sometimes 5 fact checks on the same article from Lead Stories and USA Today and various sources. And what I've been doing to avoid this kind of strike on my account, you can see here where I have this New York Times article, a Federalist article, and the Federalist often would get fact checked on Facebook, and I would get a false news rating, and it would tell me that my page has reduced distribution because of repeatedly sharing false news. And so what I'm doing now is I'm screenshotting the article, okay? And then I'll either copy paste or screenshot the first paragraph or sometimes the whole article. But I will post the actual article link into my Gab group or on my personal Gab page. See, here's a link to the Federalist. And I'll post this, and then I'll click the share button here and copy that to my clipboard. And then I'll go back to my Facebook page and I'll post the screenshot. You can see this is a screenshot. It's not really the actual article link. And so I'll post that screenshot and then post a link to my Gab page. So when you click this link here, it actually goes directly to my Gab group and achieves a couple of things like driving clicks to my Gab group for one, but it also helps prevent getting fact check on Facebook. So I haven't had any fact checks ever since I started doing this. So I can tell you that Federalist article definitely would have been fact check, had a fact check or even got me a strike on my account had I shared the Federalist link directly onto Facebook. Now, I like the Federalist, so I will link to them directly on my Gab page, but if it's a company that I don't like CNN or the New York Times or one of these lamestream media sources, I'll use archive.today and archive the article and share an archived version of the article onto my Gab page and then share the Gab link onto my Facebook page with a screenshot. And sure, it adds a couple of steps, but it deprives CNN or the New York Times or name them the lamestream media source. It deprives them of the clicks, and that's how they make money. That's how they generate revenue. That's how they get ad revenue, is by people clicking on their page. So if I share an article in my Facebook group that has almost 7,500 members, that's potentially a couple thousand people that could click on an article that gets a lot of traction. Some of my articles, some of my links that I share on Reopen Washington, oftentimes, like every couple of days, I'll get 3,500 interactions with one of my articles that I share. And so those 3,500 clicks and interactions are now going to my Gab page instead of going to the lamestream media source. And by using archive.today, I'm depriving them of the clicks and I'm preserving the original article as I found it. I've noticed a couple of the articles I shared back in June and sometimes earlier than that. And even times when I find an article on DuckDuckGo as I'm searching, I'll find it in the search results. And then I'll click the article, and the headline is different on the article than it was in the search result because they've updated it like sometimes 24 hours after it was posted. And whether they've gotten blowback or something from higher ups, who knows? But they will update their articles and oftentimes change the content and change the overall feel of the article and the way it comes out. Sometimes they say something that goes against the narrative, and then they'll update the article. By archiving that article, I'm depriving them of clicks, and I'm preserving the original content that I'm sharing in the form that I saw and that I wanted to share it in. And so it's very important to do that, to archive the lamestream media sources and use an archived link instead of using the web link for CNN or New York Times or whatever it is. So it also helps when they have a paywall. Sometimes you have, only like 10 articles you can read on the New York Times, and if they have a paywall, then I've got to go to another browser. So I've got like 5 browsers installed, and once I use up all my monthly free articles, I'll use another browser. Do the same thing. I'll share it in archive.today. But share things on alt tech like Gab or Parler, and then share the link to that alt tech site onto Facebook. While I'm a big believer in getting off of Facebook and getting big tech out of our lives, I also think we need to be using them against themselves in this way by driving people, because the majority of people are on Facebook. And so we can only help alt tech grow by continuing to use these platforms against themselves. And this is how you effectively do that. If we're just continually using the platform on Facebook, the more we use it, the more money they make. On Facebook, we are the product. And so if we change the way we fundamentally use Facebook and start sharing Gab or sharing Parler links on Facebook, and stop sharing mainstream article links altogether. You share only archived links, and then share all news links, 100% of news links onto alt tech, and then share the alt tech post onto Facebook. That's how we use Facebook against itself. The other thing you can do to cut big tech out of your life is download and use the Dissenter web browser. Okay? This is very important. The Dissenter web browser is like an ad block web browser from the ground up, built like blocking big tech and big advertisements off of your whole life. And so everything you do on Google Chrome is tracked and monitored. They take all of the info, everything you've ever looked at using Google Chrome or Microsoft's browser or Safari. They take all that information and use it to make ads for you. And they feed you little advertisements based off of your browsing history. If you use the Dissenter web browser, which is built off of, originally it was built off of the Google Chrome infrastructure, but it blocks big tech ads and trackers by default. And I can tell you, with Facebook's new format, which I hate, the Facebook bubble interface, it looks like a giant iPad app or something. It loads really slowly on Safari on my Mac, but on Dissenter it loads very quickly, and it's a lot cleaner. There's no ads. Maybe there's like one built-in ad that Facebook has in there, but for the most part, all the ads are gone. All the trackers are blocked. It says right here, Dissenter is a browser built for people, not advertisers. By using Dissenter, you'll be blocking big tech ads and trackers, making your browsing experience faster and more secure. The other thing it does is it adds comments to every URL on the web. And you can see just on this one, dissenter.com, you click this little link at the top, boom, there's over 2,500 comments on this URL. And you'll notice a lot of the lamestream media like CNN and the New York Times, they've stopped using comments because they realized the comment sections themselves would actually debunk the narrative they were trying to push. They'll have thousands of comments debunking their own narrative. So they've stopped using comments in large part. A lot of the CNN articles that I see, a lot of the other articles don't have a comment section anymore. And in those articles, you'll oftentimes find comments using the Dissenter browser where they add a comment section to every URL on the web. Very cool feature. I would highly suggest using the Dissenter web browser. It's available on Windows, Linux, and Mac. You can download it, start using it, and get on Gab. Get on Gab. Join my Reopen Washington group on Gab, gab.com/g/reopenwa. Get on the group. That's where everything I share is posted originally, and sometimes I don't even post the stuff to the Reopen Washington Facebook group. So gab.com, Reopen Washington, and there's all kinds of great content on here, and I think that Gab is the most popular one. It's more popular than Parler. Worldwide, it is the most popular alt-tech group, and I really believe in the creator's vision. Andrew Torba has a real vision, and he believes in free speech. He believes in exporting free speech products around the world, and I think Gab is where it's at. So join Gab, start sharing your articles on Gab or Parler, and then share the link to that article on Facebook to drive people away from Facebook. Ultimately, that's how we do it. So hope you'll get on Gab. I hope you'll join me there and start using alt tech to secure your free speech in the future. Thanks for tuning in.